What if the Flash died before Oliver died in Crisis? I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, Barry was projected to die the day after Oliver died in Crisis. I could be wrong, but from what I remember, it was the day after Barry was supposed to die. It was the 90s Flash who died on that treadmill, saving our Barry. But it's always kind of interesting to think about what would have happened if our Barry died instead of 90s Barry and Oliver. What would the story have been like? What would the shows have been like? All that. That's what I want to talk about in this video. To start off with Barry, obviously, how he would have died. I think we saw that plain and simple in season 9, episode 10, combining it with season 1 footage where Barry ran through a portal, ended up in that timeline fighting Thawne in the house where Barry's mom died. Did that moment where Barry held his hand up and told past Barry, to stop. And then he ran off and opened another portal. Those two scenes were not used in 910 because that's the Barry's already there, so they couldn't be used anyways. And also Barry got teleported out before he could run through a portal back. So the timeline changed there because Barry didn't die. That was a prime example of what would have happened if Barry had died in Crisis. He would have ran back, like I said in newspaper article, on Christmas, which was around the time when Crisis on Infinite Earths happened in our world, I guess. But it would have been it would have just been going back to that night, Barry fighting Thawne, and then Barry trying to run back, and he vanishes in the Speed Force, like we saw in season 6. We saw that play out. We didn't see Thawne, though we just saw Barry dying, which very well could have been through Barry running back and then Thawne getting stuck in the past. I mean, that's how it happened in the comics. From the comics that I've read, Barry tried to go back, he died, and this all happened. Although that wasn't in Crisis, I don't think it was. That was a different story there, but it really would have been a cool story to see. I do understand why they went with Oliver. I'm not trying to say I hated Oliver dying. I want Oliver to die. I didn't, but I also didn't want Barry to die. I think they made a right call going with Oliver because it made the story more emotional, more anticlimactic, and higher climax, obviously, in the situation too. But it would have been interesting to see Barry die because, especially if Oliver still made that deal. Like, can you imagine seeing Oliver fighting the Monitor? I mean, we know Oliver would have been pissed off in that moment. Barry almost fought the Monitor after Oliver died, but he didn't because he held himself back. But it really would have been this huge twist in the story, I think, for the Arrowverse as a whole. Obviously, Arrow was ending. I think no matter what, they could have ended the show anyways. Just having like Oliver try to honor Barry, sacrifice, something like that would have been fine. But it would have been really interesting to see the show just shift, like all the shows shift. But particularly how Barry's death would have an impact on all of them. And it's, again, we're never going to see that, at least in this universe, where Barry dies in, something like that. Because Crisis, I mean, we did really get screwed over with an ending I think most people wanted. But after Crisis, Flash was never going to die. I mean, there were people holding out hope for that. He was never going to. I mean, I even did videos on that several times over in the past, talking about that, saying point blank it will never happen because the timeline changed. And 910 was a prime example of that. Barry didn't run back there to that night. He was teleported back by the Speed Force, and he was teleported away, after he saved his mom. Well, not saved his mom. After his mom died, and he talked to Thawne and got that piece, then he was teleported away, back to the present. So, should we ever find out why that even happened? Was this like the timeline trying to fix itself? What the hell? Whatever. The point is, there's a lot of problems there, if you really dig into it, but if you really think about it too. But the matter of the fact is that there's a whole shift of factors in the Arrowverse that we never would have gotten if Barry had died. Like season 8, which is my favorite season of the show, or one, at least top 2 at least. For me personally, that was such, because we never would have seen Barry as powerful as he was in season 8. We never would have seen several villains from the show, but also what could have happened in the Arrowverse. I think it would have died a lot sooner than it did, because the Flash was the last standing leg of the Arrowverse. Arrow, I think, was going to end no matter what. Whether they're going to do Flash dying or not, Arrow would have ended in that moment. It wasn't going to change. Because Steven had been talking for, I think it was since season 6, he wanted it in the show, but the producers convinced him to go on through season 7 and season 8. And the end of season 8. So I think Arrow would have ended no matter what. But the Flash, if it had ended in that moment when Barry died, if Barry had died, it would have been after the Arrowverse. I mean, Supergirl would have ended, Black Lightning would have ended, Legends would have been canceled, Batman would have been canceled. It all would have been going downhill. The Flash, while yes, it dimmed season 9, was still the last leg of the Arrowverse and before it broke off. But the matter of the fact is that it just made it more heartfelt. I mean, can you imagine the Arrowverse ending on Batman Legends, the 2 worst superhero shows in history, and then they get canceled? That's how the Arrowverse ends. No one would have liked that. I don't think it would have worked out anyways. But at least in The Flash, we got to say goodbye to Oliver appropriately. We got to see that emotional goodbye between Dick and Oliver, Barry and Oliver, that we didn't get before. Because it got cut. Or, well, it didn't get cut, I guess, but it just never happened. And so, that is something that I think when you look at, just the whole scope of what Barry had died, this would be looking at. Now, through the universe itself, honestly, Barry dying would have had an impact. And I think that Legends of Tomorrow episode in 2046 in the Yellow Earth, where Oliver had one arm and he fought Slade, lost his arm and all that, quit being the Green Arrow for a while. I think that Earth pretty much would have been exactly what would have happened if Barry died. Oliver probably wouldn't have been the Green Arrow anymore. He probably would have handed it all up, or at least on some level. And it probably wouldn't have been a major story like it was in Legends if Barry had died in that moment. I think legitimately on that Earth, Barry died. And that's why it was so dark, because Oliver said it so himself to Barry. About Barry, I should say. Well, even, I think, to Barry at one point. That Barry's the best of them. And so if Barry dies, Oliver wouldn't be the hero he is. And that made vividly clear in his native Arrow. I mean, we saw him talk to Tommy. I mean, about inspiring hope and all that. He wasn't talking about that seasons prior to Barry being involved in the Arrowverse. So I think it just goes to show how much Barry had an impact on Oliver and how much Oliver would be negatively affected, like he was in that 2046 Other Earth, Alternate Earth episode that Legends did. I think it's season 2 it was, maybe season 1, somewhere around there, season 1 or 2, Legends did the episode. I think the episode was strictly where Barry had died. And, because, again, how can you argue that Barry was alive on that Earth? Where we believed there was another timeline in the future. But the matter of fact is that, which, to be honest, I think they made that another Earth in Crisis purely because Barry didn't die. And that Earth, Barry did die. So, and that's not on Earth, he didn't. So they said, we're going to make another Earth just to make sure that people know this is an alternate Earth, not an alternate timeline. Like we did when it aired. But, again, that's no argument you can make to why, if Barry had died, what would have happened. And the episode's a pure example of that. At least in my view. I could be wrong about that. But in my view, it's what would have happened. As for, again, the universe as a whole, it would have just ended. I mean, it would have been canceled entirely through Batman Legends. And The Flash most likely would have been done. They could have brought Wally back, sure, as The Flash, but I don't see that show doing well anyways. I think it would have been canceled by CW in a heartbeat after season 1 or 2, which by that point anyways, Batman Legends would still be left. So I don't think, Wally being The Flash would save the show, because Grant wasn't the problem. It was the writing for the show. So, it wasn't anything about the actors, I think, in that situation anyways. But the matter of fact is that we got lucky that Oliver was the one who died, not Barry. Because Arrow was going to end no matter what. They made that very clear as the show was ending. But because The Flash didn't end, we were able to say goodbye and finally see Barry being The Flash and not being a pathetic speedster who doesn't know what the hell he's doing. We saw him knowing what he's doing. And it's something I never thought we'd see on the show. But we did, because we got lucky through season 8. And season 9 came along, it was not a good season, but we got to say goodbye to Oliver again. We're going to see Barry go back to that. Now, all people really wanted in that final season. We got it. We didn't get Cisco. Obviously, we hadn't seen him for at least 2 years at that point. But we got a somewhat sort of good goodbye. Did it close off everything? No. But that leaves the door open for future Arrowverse projects, which I already talked about in that whole video. I'm not going to talk about it here because I've talked about it several times over and it's pointless. But it is important to look at as a whole, you know, what can be done if Barry had died. And also, I don't know what could have been done differently. I think the Arrowverse close with the Flash was appropriate. I wish it was different. I think we all wish that. It was better written and all that. But I think the fact is that there is no definitive way to end Arrowverse without the Flash. Because Arrow was done, Supergirl was done, Black Lightning was done, Batman was done, Legends was ending. Or Legends was done at that point, not ending. Both were ending because they got canceled. But I think the Flash was the appropriate time to end the show in the Arrowverse with the Flash. It was the only way. So, yeah. Thank you guys for watching the video. Have a good day. Have a good night. Stay safe. And that's the next video. Bye, guys.